Sir Alec Izagonis will forever be remembered as the man that designed the iconic British car, the Mini. But hang on a second, let's not overlook his other modes and success, like this, the Morris Minor. Now, while the first was immortalised tearing up the streets of Italy, the latter was at home getting on with the day-to-day motoring. Now, many call it the British Beetle, and it's easy to see why they make the connection. But unlike its European neighbour, the Minor came in different guises. This is the Minor 1000 Traveller, a simple to find, easy to maintain, and best of all, a cheap to run classic. This is the most recognised model of the Morris Minor, although this style didn't come to light until 1956. The first model was the MM series, manufactured in 1948, and then the Series 2 came along 4 years later. The easiest way to tell them apart is by looking at the windscreen. The two earlier models are split screen. The Minor 1000 can be purchased in many different styles: 2-door saloon and convertible, 4-door saloon, panel van, pickup truck, and this, the Traveller. Unlike the panel van and the pickup, the Traveller was based on the 2-door saloon's integral underframe setup, which would flex more, so using wood which is more pliable made sense. Even though its last facelift came along with the Minor 1000, it had certain mechanical modifications during its production between 1956 and 1971. And as it was so easy to work on, many of those improvements have been interchanged between the older and younger cars. The original engine was increased in size, allowing it to have a top speed of 77 miles per hour. Larger brakes were fitted and a closer ratio gearbox. A flashing indicator arm joined the steering column, and the fuel tank was enlarged to hold a whole 6 gallons, which is something or other in litres. Looking at the colour matching dashboard, it is rather basic. You only have one dial in the centre, which is your speedo and fuel gauge. Beneath that you have the ignition, and over to the left the choke and wiper knobs. On the other side of the ignition are the controls for the lights, and on this car it has a pull start. Continuing to the right, you're greeted with the heater switch and another modification to this car, the screen wash button. The original can be found on the floor, just next to the clutch. On the other side of the steering column is the hazard warning light, and yet another addition to this car, fog lights. If you dig deep enough, you should also locate the bonnet release. The horn is located in the centre of that large steering wheel. Behind that is the driver's glove box, and the passenger has their very own one, so very posh. It boasts large opening doors with matching two-tone door cards, and for ease of access into the rear, the passenger seat not only folds down, but it also then lifts up. The driver's seat only does the latter. If you need to adjust the height of the seat, it can be done by turning the little rubber blocks on the seat frame itself. The pedals are nicely separated, and by the clutch you can see the original position for the screen wash pump. Just don't get the two mixed up. You won't be able to change gear, but hey, at least you'll have a nice clear view. Its real pull is the amount of room that you have in it. Even if you add a child seat, there's still space for another adult in the back, and you even get your own armrest. Then there's the full opening doors on the back, giving you access to a stack of room, about 4 by 2.5 foot, not including the underfloor storage, which houses the spare wheel, jack, and anything else that you've shoved in there. You can then clear the back seat, unbolt it, and lay it down, which increases it by another 2 foot. You can see why so many companies use the van model commercially. It has a real homely feel to it, like a cuddly grandma. That's down to the rounded body styling and generous curves. It's a shame Morris head Lord Nuffield couldn't see that, and he only congratulated Izagonis after 1 million had been sold. You can't help but love the Morris Minor. And for those of you who thought you'd have to wait for the kids to leave home before buying a classic, think again. Now, all the models have enough room for your standard 2.4 kids family, and should you need child seats in the rear, the seatbelts can easily be fitted or upgraded if it hasn't already been done so. Plus, if you get the Traveller, there's a stack of room in there for push chairs and dogs and bikes and stuff. Now, the fact that it came in various models is a real bonus. Spare parts are easy and cheap to get hold of. Plus, there's loads of forums on the net should you have any questions on how to do things. Now, when people see a Morris Minor, they just smile at it, like they've just bumped into an old friend. And I reckon if all the kindest people on the planet had to drive exactly the same car, it'd be one of these.